Welcome to the show, The First Generation Mindset. First Generation Mindset is about taking nothing for granted, striving for excellence on a daily basis. Through my book, I talk about a 3-step process, which is vision, value, and then ask. I'm excited today. I'm going to be talking to Nadeem Sheikh, a visionary friend I've known for several years, who was born and raised in UK and moved to America in 2003. His journey of working in corporate America and then switching careers and starting a company that's been the fastest growing company for minorities in America in top 100 is a huge accomplishment. I want to unfold his journey and story with you today. Nadeem, excited to have you over here.
Excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
So born and raised in UK, and you had an incredible journey, got your undergrad, went to London School of Economics, then you got an accounting field, worked for a Big Four. And over all these years, you've grown as a family man, but also grown your company over all these years. Share your journey with us, Nadeem. How's it been in UK, now America, and you've traveled all over the world. You were also in Netherlands for a few years.
That's right. So I was born in Birmingham several years ago. Born in Birmingham, parents are from Pakistan. I had a privileged upbringing. We were sent to good schools, so I made it to London School of Economics, at which point I moved to London, pursued a degree in economics and law, then joined what was in those days known as Coopers & Lybrand to become a chartered accountant. Did that for 3 years, and very late 90s, I decided that I wanted to get out of London, go and see the world. So got married that year, 97, to a wonderful lady who you know called Sophia.
Yeah.
Moved to Hong Kong, worked for a division of IBM.
Was that again an accounting field? Or?
It was accounting, but it was also operations.
Okay.
So we lived in Hong Kong, but I worked in Shenzhen, China.
Okay.
So once a week I would get the train across to China. Great experience. Daughter Aisha was born in Hong Kong. And so after that, we sort of had the Hong Kong experience for 2 years. It had changed. Then we decided to move to the Netherlands to work and I worked for PwC. Which is where our second child, Ibrahim, was born, 2001. And during that, a Dutch client, decided they wanted to set up shop in America, and they asked me whether I'd be interested. It was challenging at first to leave the Netherlands, which is, almost a perfect society. It's a great place to live. So we moved to the US in 2003. I'll share a very quick story as to why that was an experience. When we sat down with the board of directors, they said, "Where would you recommend that we open operations?" It was an investment company. I said, "Well, New York or San Francisco." And they said, "Okay, go off, do a field visit." As I was flying back from San Francisco, the flight was cancelled to Amsterdam. We can get you a flight through Houston and you'll be in Amsterdam. I said, "That's fine." When the flight got into Houston, they said it's cancelled because of rain and they don't give a hotel or anything. So I just got into a rental car. I found a road called Beltway 8, which I thought was a strange name. So I started to drive down it. I had nothing to do. I knew no one here. And then as I was driving down, a sign for a town called Sugarland, which is even more strange. I said, "Let's get off here." And I stayed in La Quinta in Stafford.
Okay.
Right. In the morning, the flights are in the afternoon. So in the morning when I got up, I just went to a gas station, picked up a free newspaper. The first page I opened, it said you can get a big house for $300,000. I immediately called Sophie. I said, "This is where we're moving. It's cheap."
Wow. So you're an accidental Houstonian.
I am indeed, yeah. That's a good way to put it.
Wow. So a flight connection missed and delays and all that stuff. Start driving around on the Beltway 8 loop,
Yeah.
take exit to Sugarland and pick up a newspaper. Wow. This is the first time hearing someone so accidentally. It was meant to be in Sugarland.
It was
then.
destiny.
Wow. So this was in 2003.
It was in 2003.
Move your family over here, and did you work for the same company for a few years?
I did for about 3 years.
Okay.
And then I was invited to work on a hybrid role between London and Houston for Lloyds Bank.
Okay.
Lloyds Bank, a UK-owned Bank of Scotland. Bank of Scotland had a lot of investments in the oil and gas industry in Houston. So they needed somebody in a British-American background. And that was my first exposure to oil and gas. That was in 2006. I was there for a couple of years. And then, unfortunately, Lloyds Bank was nationalized in the credit crisis of 2008. I never saw myself as a government employee. So
Did you ever see yourself as an employee?
Good question. Begrudgingly. So we then, I called up Ernst & Young,
Okay.
EY, So every time we did a deal, we had a third-party due diligence, which was done with EY. And I said, I'd like to, basically move to Houston because the family stayed in Houston. I used to commute every 3 weeks. And they said, come on over. So I got a role at EY Transaction Services, a lot of valuation, modeling, business forecasting, a lot of bankruptcy work, again, focused on the oil and gas industry. So as my sort of professional career developed, I was getting more and more exposure, actually by choice, into the energy industry. During that time, our youngest was born, Zara. So we've had a child in Asia, one in Europe, one in North America. I guess we're not moving anywhere else. So
no more moves.
No more kids.
No more kids.
And no more kids.
So if you're happy about that, not happy about that?
I think she's very happy.
She's done. The three.
So I moved from EY to GE, private equity in Stamford, Connecticut. That was more a lot of sort of gathering assets and selling them. It was a tough time for GE. They were trying to not be a bank. So that meant shedding assets. And during that, about 2011, 2012, GE Oil and Gas, which is the industrial division on Beltway, it used to be in Beltway 8, they called me over to be a global controller, primarily focused on the Brazilian division. So during that, I kept having these ideas. Yes, corporate America is great. I was blessed to have senior positions, but there was something missing. Mm-hmm. That calling, self-fulfillment, if you like. And it was just difficult to sort of get into that 9-to-5 routine, get used to the reporting side of it, in the sense that, you're instructed, you're directed, even though you managed your own team. It was almost as if you're in a very well-regulated capsule, and the room for creativity was limited, as well as the fact that I saw a glass ceiling above me. You may be compensated continuously, but there was a glass ceiling to try and get to the higher echelons of corporate America, and I'll be very blunt about that.
Yeah.
During that time, I'd also done my executive MBA. So there was another skill set I had. So with the accounting, the MBA, the law degree, I was always thinking, okay, where does that break come? So a break came in 2016, where I did my first acquisition, first investment in the oilfield services space. That was my first foray into entrepreneurship, using my own personal capital. It was testing, to say the least.
Okay.
It's a totally different world. Okay. You're responsible for payroll. You're responsible for the bills. It wasn't like that at GE or EY. You just turned up to work and just did what you're supposed to do. So that shapes your character in many ways. It shapes you in many ways. I'm not talking about business-wise or financial management, but as a person. I think the biggest, the assets or the learnings that I started to take from it was patience. You're not in a regulated framework where everything is available to you by going on the intranet and making a request.
Right.
If it's an HR question, you will find the answer to the question yourself. If it means calling the utility company to get a connection, you'll do that yourself. So what it taught me was the value of patience. I'm not saying I'm patient, okay, but it certainly taught me the value of patience. Also about leadership. We work in a tough area. It's all field services. It happens by the minute. It's mission critical. So it taught me that leadership needs to be firm yet respectful. And that's a fine balance. Again, I think I'm still working on that to get that balance. I hope I'm respectful, but certainly firm but respectful only because that's what the customer demands. Then there was managing the team, managing several more subordinates from all different walks of life. Educated, high school graduates, blue collar, white collar. You had to take a different approach. So as you might appreciate at a Big Four, mm-hmm, most people, if not everyone, is a graduate.
Correct.
Right? So communication is different. Mm-hmm. Here it's different. You've got people with varying needs. You've got people who may have different needs at home with family, different financial needs. So you had to sort of understand that and appreciate that. So I think moving from corporate America, we've talked about patience, we've talked about leadership style, but also appreciating that when you come outside of that vacuum of corporate America, it's a very diverse, very varied world, which might be very different to what you live in.
So true, Nadeem, where being in corporate America, you clock in, clock out. The paycheck is waiting for you unless you do not comply with the expectations of your management team. But being a business owner, entrepreneur, on the outside, it seems all great. You're the boss of your day, you're boss of your life, work when you want to work, and get disengaged when you want to take some time off. But early on last week, I was talking to a young adult, 15-year-old kid over here in the studio, and he aspires to be a business owner, entrepreneur. And what I shared with him was, when you're a business owner, like you said, Nadeem, you're responsible for making sure there's food on the table, not on your household, but somebody who works with you. This is where, as a business owner, we have to make a lot of tough decisions at times, where someone who's not complying with the policies, procedures, or in your field, safety is big.
Yes.
If someone non-compliant with safety guidelines or regulations within the industry, there's way less margin of error. It can lead to huge catastrophe. And we have to make those tough decisions with such resources when they're non-compliant with policy and procedure, where we have to terminate them. And as a business owner, sitting across the table and telling someone you don't have a job tomorrow, when that job allows them to provide for their family and everyone else, is challenging. Because while we may be robotic in a day-to-day work activity, but we're still human beings. We still have a brain and a heart. So I get challenged every time I have to take disciplinary action against my team members or resources, but sometimes it's needed because they're not compliant. But in your field of work, the margin of error is minimal. Yeah. Safety is big. How do you deal with that when you have to talk to a team member or employee when they're non-compliant and they must be terminated? Because that's part and parcel of being a business owner.
So that would draw into the three sort of learnings that I've had being in business: firm but respectful.
Okay.
So the firmness there would come into that we've got to be resolute and devoid of emotion to make a decision, to let someone go simply because they're non-compliant with safety. Because if we don't, there's a number of repercussions. One, you're breeding bad behavior, that it's okay, we'll give you another chance. Or two, you're non-compliant with the customer's requirements. Don't forget that a lot of our safety requirements or protocols are dictated by the customer. And the customer is not just dealing with us as one vendor, they're dealing with dozens of vendors. And they can have unbelievable or limitless financial implications by way of lawsuit as well as reputation, right? We remember the incident we had a number of years ago with BP and the spill in the Gulf. Mm-hmm. It haunts them to this day.
The Macondo oil spill, yes.
Yes, from finances through to reputation. So that, I think, is the firmness of it. And you have to let them know that if they don't, then they're affecting the livelihood of another 50, 60 families. So that's how we have to look at this. It unfortunately comes down to a numerical calculation. And it's important that you understand that and you're able to comply with it.
So you have fastest growing company, Avensis. Talk about that. How'd you come up with the name? What's your vision of the organization? What you see accomplish in the next 5 or 10 years?
So I wanted it to begin with A, because Amazon started with A and he's successful.
That's an easy one.
That was easy. The word Avensis, obviously Toyota had a very famous car,
yes.
Avensis, and they got the name from the French word avancer, to advance. And that's where we'd like to be looking, despite challenges, to be advancing onwards and upwards. And I thought the name had a slight catch to it. Sure. So that's how we picked it.
So what's the core of your business? What does a team do? What do you guys do on a daily basis?
So our bread and butter is logistics. It's trucking. We've done commercial trucking, whereby our core business was shipping apples from the West Coast to some major supermarkets in New York, in the tri-state area. We also do oil field logistics, which is wastewater hauling. So basically moving brine, salt water to disposals. So that's called production water. And we're also slowly getting into agricultural waste. So we're trying to build a diversified trucking company because all the areas we're in tend to be cyclical.
So why logistics? How did you get into trucking business?
So when I did my first acquisition and when I was actually working with EY or GE on restructuring a lot of oil field service companies, and a lot of them had trucking dimension. So I got to understand the trucking dimension, how it works, what's involved, what the margins are like. And I guess I rolled into it. Also, if you look at the statistics, 9% or 7% of America's workforce is in trucking. So it's
I did not know that.
something, might be the biggest employer in the States, perhaps. It's something that isn't going away anytime soon. So I thought that this is where I'd like to be.
So getting in the trucking business with the experience with oil and gas services, what are some of the challenges you face building a brand new business from ground zero?
Employees. Drivers have an incredibly difficult job. You know, they are in a truck, they're in limited space, 14, 15, 16 hours a day, sometimes in very harsh conditions. It's either very cold or very hot, as it is right now. So recruiting drivers, making sure we meet their needs as an employer has been challenging, and it's a consistent challenge that we face. And it works both ways. You know, drivers, managing drivers as well who may be not so ethical. So that's been one side of it. The other side of it is recruiting the right people. So again, it's what we all believe in as business owners. You're only as strong as your weakest link. So drivers are our key asset, and finding the best ones has been difficult.
So how do you retain the most valued drivers or resources within the organization? What's your strategy for whether it's a cultural fit, compensation? What do you lay emphasis on to keeping the right talent?
So I think for a driver, it's very important that the equipment you provide them is top quality. So we really focus on the age and upkeep of our equipment. That's important. Secondly, on how you treat them. You know, there should be resources for them to be able to address their issues. So HR, a strong HR department. We've built one, we continue to expand on it. Supervisors, their immediate supervisors or managers must be accessible. And communication, so the dispatch communication, it must be clear. And the opportunity to make money. The only reason they're there is to make money, obviously. Those opportunities must be there with them. There must be consistent load availability. So that's where, as a team, we're all working on finding the loads, finding the customers, identifying the opportunities for drivers to continue to make money.
So as of this month, I believe you have 100 plus employees. How many trucks are you transporting on a monthly basis across America?
So we operate 70 vehicles, 70 trucks, and there's about 80 trailers. So normally you'll have more trailers than trucks so that you can attach a different kind of application to each vehicle.
Fantastic. I also understand 2023 and 2024, your company received some awards and recognition, both at state level and a national level. Talk about them, Nadeem.
So 23, we were blessed. We were lucky to be recognized by the Asian Chamber of Commerce as a Rising 10, which is one of the 10 fastest Asian-owned companies in the region. 2024, we were recognized as one of the same award, but on a national basis, Fast 100. I think those awards are just a testimony to the people that I work with as to how good they really are at what they do.
Fantastic. So year over year, recognition, success, first regional level, then national level. Where do you want to grow your company to, Nadeem? What's your long-term vision with events and growth of your organization?
We'd like to have a national footprint. I think one award that I'd really like to win is one of the best places to work, because that'll be a testimony from our employees about our company, that it's a good environment. So I think steady growth, working for a national footprint, being a recognized place to work. We've got a lot of work to do to get there. We recognize that. But also leveraging technology to the fullest to making everybody's job easier and, of course, making the company more profitable.
Fantastic. Of your 3 kids, I'm not going to ask you who's your favorite, but I'm going to ask you, of the 3 kids, do any of them have interest in pursuing what you're doing today, Nadeem?
I think that my son Ibrahim would have an interest in entrepreneurship. Whether it's actually in the logistics space or the energy space remains to be seen. He graduated from McCombs Business School at UT Austin just last year. So he's already got the basis for it. He works for a Big Four now.
He does?
He does, yes.
Following father's footsteps.
So absolutely. So he would have that potential and, I think, intent to do that. That said, my eldest daughter, Aisha, she's incredibly creative. And she's a self-starter in Hollywood, so she works in the TV production business.
Wow. One in Hollywood, one at Big Four.
We're blessed.
A lot of pressure for the youngest one.
It is. She's got a few years to decide what she wants to do.
Sure.
But she certainly is inspired by her older brother and sister.
Fantastic. Do you feel, Nadeem, that as you grow as a business owner or as an entrepreneur and you build a company organization, I mean, I personally have this perspective that if you don't instill the right values in your kids or next generation, they tend to take it for granted. And I can name numerous companies, global companies, that were established by the grandfather, did really well, had a brand name, recognition, and success. Then the son or daughter took it over, success was limited, and it came to the third, fourth generation, and those companies ceased to exist. So I believe we're instilling right values of importance of working hard, not taking things for granted are really important. So what do you foresee where maybe one of your kids takes over your business or helps you grow it further? But what could we be doing to make sure that our kids see the value of the hard work you put in? Because born and raised in UK, you travel all over the world, landed up in Houston, were circling on Beltway 8, but you had a vision of growth to be financially independent. And our story, working in corporate America, you're always waiting on someone to tell you when you get your pay raise and when you get your promotion. We are at the mercy of your employer. But taking the big step, big jump of leaving corporate America and becoming your own self-employed entrepreneur is a big step. What are we doing today to tell our kids it's not easy? Because if you take it, give it for granted, our strategy of building a business could be impacted. What are your thoughts on that?
So I look at my journey. I think working in corporate America, working for banks or Big Four or industrial companies has really helped me. It's understanding processes, procedures, or organization. And that's why I'm so keen that, my son's gone the same way. So there's two ways to it. We can keep telling them, oh, we've worked really hard, don't take this for granted, don't spend this, don't spend that. I don't think that's going to work. Okay. It's that training, formal training, exposure to other companies or somebody else's business, as well as understanding the importance that systems and structure play in an organization. Once I think you have that mindset, a corporate mindset, and once you have the drive is natural. You have the drive, the corporate mindset, and you have an appreciation for systems and procedures, you'd hope that they go a long way towards preventing that kind of attitude that you described where a second or a third generation takes it for granted and squanders the money and certainly just doesn't have that passion or affinity that the founders of the business may have. So it needs to be a much more structured approach to preventing that from happening.
So well said, Nadeem. So well said. Fantastic. In terms of value that you're adding to the industry and to the market, to your clients and customers, how do you put value in competing with other companies that have been doing what you're doing right now for decades? So coming in as a new business owner in a very old industry of trucking transportation, you had to think differently to add value to your clients and customers. How did you position yourself over there, Nadeem?
So what I like to always tell my colleagues is that your competitor is always better than you.
Okay.
He's always one step ahead because that makes you go even further and think further outside the box. So we really believe in the adaptation of technology, different apps for different steps of the procedure of the service, accountability via technology. So we've had instances with customers where, we've had to account for loads, and our competitors may not have been able to do that because they don't have the systems, whereas we've been able to go into our systems, pull up audit trails and say, this is what we did, and this is what it looks like. And that's actually earned us a lot of credibility. So for us, I think the edge or the focus will be on adapting technology and also thinking of diversifying outside of our core services.
Fantastic. So while we probably will need drivers to drive the trucks, you never know, we could have driverless trucks in the future. But how do you embrace technology, especially AI? Do you think that would help you or enable you to be more successful, grow your company, grow your organization, or would that be limiting for your industry?
So any new initiative that comes on technologically, whether it's applicable to trucking or not, I'd like to think that it's there for a reason. We've got to be willing to listen even if we don't embrace. So I give you the best example that I think in modern times was the Blockbuster CEO laughing at the founder of Netflix.
Right.
But that's a stupid idea. We all know what happened. So I think what we need to do as a company is learn how AI could help in certain areas of our business. Like you said, you're not going to replace the driver. But can it help with billing? Can it help with security? Can it help with safety? Can it help with maintenance? And that is something we're looking at very aggressively right now.
Fantastic. So you hope that maybe your kids join your business. What's your involvement with your wife? Because she's holding the ground with the 3 kids. What's her support system? How does that feel for you? Because work is great, but if you don't have work-life balance, it throws off everything. How do you manage that, Nadeem, with all the growth you've had, success you've had? How do you manage that effectively?
So I would think that, one of the 2 reasons for my success, one, values that I've had from my late mother, and the second is my wife, Sophia. Extremely understanding, extremely patient, and I guess sometimes you need to be patient with someone like me. No, she's obviously very busy herself, but we make an effort that the weekends, Fridays and Saturdays, is time we spend together. We certainly try and get away for every year, which is just, we call it us time. And we
Without the kids?
No, with the kids.
With the kids, okay.
Kids are getting older, it gets challenging. But we value our time with each other. It's very important for us to discuss ideas, discuss challenges. She's not involved with the business, but I still get her advice on several issues to do with trucking and with drivers, because I think she has a totally different perspective away from the business, where she may be able to make a good analytical analysis, a decision for me to sort of think about. We're very willing to listen to each other as well. I think that really helps in a relationship. So I'm very strict about the time that I get to spend with family. And as I've moved on through the years, yes, you might think that 2 hours you needed to be at the office, you needed to look at your phone, you needed to send that email. It doesn't matter. I can promise you the world won't come to an end.
Correct. You're right. Things will still move on. Someone who's listening to you today, Nadeem, who's inspiring to be a business owner, entrepreneur, wants to make that jump from being a corporate slave to starting their own company, what advice would you want to give them today, Nadeem?
Patience.
Patience.
Yes, there are several days, and I'm sure there's listeners out there, several days, months, years that I went to the office and I thought to myself, why am I doing this? Especially when you looked at other deals that I was in the finance world, people cashing out, making money, and you thought, I can do this. It's easy. It's not. The other thing I'll tell you as an entrepreneur, you will fall. You are guaranteed to fall. Just make sure you fall forwards because you're still gaining distance. And if you fall, I think you're lucky because you're still learning. If you just go right to the top and you're successful on day one, something's not right.
And you'll probably think it's all easy and stop working hard. So falling is important, but patience. Patience. I love that.
And it will happen. It will happen. If you've got the drive, your intent is clean, it will happen. You just don't know when.
In my field, Nadeem, as a realtor, getting a license is not a challenge. What's good and bad is we have HDTV that has all these great shows. Somebody shows up in a luxury car, unlocks the door, and they buy $1 million home. That's far from being truthful. In our business as well, if I don't have patience to nurture a relationship or a partnership with a potential client or a builder developer, and I'm just chasing a deal, my career is going to be short-lived. So patience, 100% agree with you. And you said you have to fall and you fall forward. In your career as, whether it was in corporate America, in UK, in Netherlands, or in US, what's the biggest fall you had, if you want sharing that? And how did you get out of that fall or lesson learned from that experience?
Yes, so I think one of the biggest falls was we had a project which I lost where I'd invested, and it was part of the first deal that I did. And it was a major, major setback, a huge setback, to the point where I had to start thinking how I pay my utility bills. I think it was at that point that...
how many years back was that?
This was about 7-8 years ago.
So in the last decade?
Yeah, and
wow.
I walked into the house devastated. And Sophia said, "You're going to fix this, aren't you?" And I didn't know what to say. I just said yes. At that point, and that's why I said that thinking positive, or something that when I left GE, my boss said to me that good things happen to good people. I don't know whether I'm a good person, but let's just say an angel came through. And that angel said, whatever you need financially, here it is. I trust in you. And that was the start of Avensis.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So that fall of 7, 8 years back, when you got up and started building, that's when last year in 2023 you won these national and regional awards.
Yeah.
That fire. So people have falls, they have setbacks. What got you really getting up and going? I mean, was it your wife's inspirational words that you can do it? Was it your self-drive? Was it a combination? What got you going, Nadeem?
So at that point, I could have gone and gotten a job, and I would have been miserable. You would have been in that tight, restricted financial framework. Or the other option, which is the one I chose and I would always choose, is my family can have the least disruption in any way possible, right? And I said, no, this can't stop. It's going to be tough, but I work for my family.
Family inspired you to get back on your feet and not go back to the old grind of corporate America because you had still memory of you being limited in your growth. Nadeem, your story, your journey, while I've known you for a few years, sharing today, incredible inspiration for me where you had all the success, born, raised in the UK, lived in different continents, one baby in each continent, no more moving for you. And what you shared was your wife, Sophia, has been the backbone, a support structure. And you shared, while we may have commitments to be at work, spend the hours with our employees and work, but having commitment to spend time with your loved ones is equally important. And you shared every weekend you spend time with your wife, and she's almost like a validation board, or she brings a different perspective into your thought process. And patience. You got to have patience to be successful and fall forward. It was incredible learning more about your journey. I would love for you to have a copy of my book, Nadeem, which again talks about the first generation mindset, vision, value, ask. I truly believe you're a visionary human being, and what you've done the last several years is incredibly inspirational for all of us listening today. The value adding, not just for your clients and customers, but to the industry, and being an inspiration for your kids, huge. And you ask to be more successful, leave something of legacy, and hopefully Ibrahim or one of your kids picks up and says, I want to be an entrepreneur like my daddy, travel the world, or be in Sugarland, because that's where you ended up, right?
Yeah, that's it.
What a great story. Driving on Beltway 8, you see Sugarland, let me take that exit, and that newspaper inspired you to say, you know what, homes are affordable in Houston. It's been home for you for almost 20 years now?
21 years.
21 years. Thank you, Nadeem, for taking time and sharing your story today.
Thank you so much. Thank
Absolutely.
you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you,
Nadeem.
Thank you.